When billionaire real estate mogul Logan Pierce fired Amara Johnson, he didn't even look her in the eyes. He simply slid a folder across his glass desk and said coldly, "Your services are no longer needed." What he didn't know, what no one in that towering office suspected, was that the quiet black single mother he'd just dismissed had raised his missing twin sons for the last 8 years. The morning started like any other for Amara. She arrived at the gleaming headquarters of Pierce Global Holdings before sunrise, balancing her purse, her half-finished coffee, and the lunch she packed at 4 a.m. because her twins had eaten the last cereal again. At 34, she carried the world with a softness that life didn't always return. Her brown skin glowed even under stress. Her neat locks were tied back, and she walked with the quiet grace of a woman who had answered too many alarms, too many responsibilities, too many unspoken expectations. She had worked as an administrative assistant for the company for nearly 5 years, never late, never complaining, often covering extra tasks no one wanted. She loved her job. She needed her job because everything she did was for Micah and Malik, her boys, her heartbeats. Her whole world shifted the day she found them abandoned outside a rundown shelter when they were only 6 months old. The police searched for the parents, but no one came forward. The system prepared to move them into foster care, but something in her spirit refused to let them go. She filed every paper, attended every hearing, and spent every last dime she had to adopt them. And when she finally held the official documents in her trembling hands, she whispered, "You are mine. Always." That was 8 years ago. She never imagined that returning to work after maternity leave would lead her to the building owned by the man connected to their mysterious past. Not that she knew that then. Not until the day everything cracked open. Rumors were already swirling by the time she reached her desk. "Logan's in one of his moods," her co-worker, Jenna, whispered. "He's firing half the admin staff today." Amara's heart tightened. She had bills, school fees, asthma medication for Malik. A termination would break them. But she forced herself to breathe. "I'm good at my job. I do everything they ask." Still, when the CEO's assistant called and said, "Mr. Pierce wants to see you," her hands started to shake. The top floor felt colder than usual. Logan Pierce's office was all sharp lines, black marble, and windows overlooking a city she could barely afford to live in. The billionaire stood with his back to her, staring at a photo frame on a shelf, the only personal item he ever displayed. Amara had seen it once while delivering documents. It showed him and his ex-wife holding 2 newborn babies. Twins, just like hers. He sat, didn't smile, didn't acknowledge her years of service. He simply pushed a termination file across the desk. "Due to restructuring, your position is dissolved," he said. "But I handle the scheduling for 3 departments," she replied softly. "Sir, I need this job. There must be some mistake." "There is no mistake," he said without emotion. "Security will escort you down." It wasn't just the firing. It was the way he dismissed her humanity. Like she was disposable, invisible. Her eyes stung, but she held her dignity. "Thank you for the opportunity," she whispered before leaving. She spent the next few days applying to jobs nonstop while the twins hugged her every night and asked, "Mommy, are we okay?" "We're always okay," she whispered, even when her voice wavered. But life wasn't done twisting the knife. 3 days after the firing, she received a call from the boys' school. Malik had trouble breathing on the playground. His rescue inhaler wasn't enough. They were transporting him to the hospital. Her heart nearly stopped. When she arrived, she found him stabilized, Micah holding his brother's hand tightly. But the nurse approached her with a hesitant look. "Ms. Johnson," she said, "when we ran standard tests, something unusual came up regarding the boy's DNA." Amara froze. "Is something wrong?" "Not wrong," the nurse clarified carefully, but their genetic markers flag them as potential matches in a missing persons database. It could be nothing, but protocol requires that we notify authorities. Amara felt the room tilt. She sat beside her sons, brushing their curls back gently. "Mom, is everything okay?" Micah asked. "Yes, baby. Everything is fine," she whispered, even though fear clawed at her ribs. The nurse gave her a copy of the DNA match notice. Nervous, Amara folded it into her purse and decided she would handle it quietly. She couldn't risk losing her babies. 2 days later, while she was still jobless and drowning in worry, the doorbell rang. It wasn't the police. It was Logan Pierce, wearing a suit that cost more than her yearly rent, standing on her worn-out welcome mat. "Ms. Johnson," he said, his voice tight. "I need to speak with you. Now." Her breath caught. "How do you know where I live?" she asked. "My attorneys contacted me," he replied. "2 boys match my missing son's DNA." She nearly dropped, but before she could respond, her twins walked into the hallway. Malik blinked at the tall stranger. Micah stepped protectively in front of his brother. And Logan stared at them like the world had stopped spinning. His lips parted, his eyes filled with something she had never expected from him. Recognition, shock, and a grief so deep it looked like it had been buried for years. Those are my children," he whispered. Amara's knees weakened. The boys looked up at her, confused. "Mom," Malik asked, "what's happening?" She pulled him close and said firmly, "You are safe. Mommy is right here." Logan stepped forward. "I want answers," he demanded, voice breaking. "How did you get my sons? Where have they been all these years?" Her heart pounded. Her world spun. She had spent every day loving and protecting these boys, and now the man who had tossed her aside like trash stood in her home, claiming them. And she had no idea how much danger her heart, or her family, was about to face. Logan took a shaky breath, eyes locked on the twins. "If you don't explain everything," he warned, "I will go to court and fight for full custody immediately." Amara felt her spirit tremble, because in that moment, she realized something terrifying. The billionaire who had fired her was now threatening to take the only children she had ever loved. And she wasn't sure she had the power, wealth, or proof to stop him. Amara stood in the doorway, her heart pounding in a way she hadn't felt since the day she signed those adoption papers. Malik squeezed her hand. Micah glared protectively at the stranger in their living room. She took a quiet breath. "Logan, you need to sit down," she said, voice steady despite the storm inside her. He didn't want to sit. She saw the hesitation in his jaw, the conflict in his eyes. But something about her tone, firm, protective, maternal, made him obey. She sat across from him, her boys on either side of her, their small shoulders pressed against hers. "I didn't steal your children," she began. "I would never do something like that." "Then explain," Logan said, "because for 8 years, I believed my sons were dead." Amara blinked. "Dead?" His voice cracked. "My ex-wife told me they died in a fire. She left me soon after. I spent years searching, investigating, begging for answers. But she said I needed to move on." Amara covered her mouth in shock. "I found them at a shelter," she whispered. "There was no note, no ID, nothing. The police searched too, but no one claimed them. I thought," she swallowed, "I thought they were abandoned." Logan pinched the bridge of his nose, fighting emotions. "My ex-wife must have staged it. We were fighting constantly. Her family hated me, hated my work, hated that I spent so much time building the company. I think she wanted to punish me." The truth landed between them. Heavy, painful, unbelievable. Micah's small voice broke the silence. "So you're our dad?" Logan looked at him with trembling eyes. "If you'll have me," he whispered. "I've prayed for you two for years." Malik leaned against Amara, confused and emotional. "You're not taking us from Mommy, right?" The question cut Logan more deeply than any boardroom betrayal ever had. Amara held her sons close. "That's what we need to talk about," she said softly, "because these boys have only ever known me. I've loved them every day of their lives." "I can see that," Logan said quietly. "I can see they're safe here. Loved. And I overreacted. When the DNA results came, I panicked. I thought, if I didn't move fast, I'd lose them again." Amara's anger softened, but the fear in her chest didn't fully fade. "We need to do this the right way," she said. "Not with threats, not with lawyers." Logan swallowed. "You're right. I am sorry, Amare. I handled everything wrong." Her breath hitched a little because the apology sounded real. The boys sat between them, their big brown eyes moving from one adult to the other. Micah finally said, Can we all talk? Like a family." The word lingered in the room, warm and fragile. Family. Something none of them had imagined they'd share. Over the next week, Logan didn't push. Instead, he tried. He visited after school. He sat cross-legged on her floor, helping with homework. He burned pancakes, trying to cook for the boys, and laughed at himself when Malik teased him. They played basketball in the parking lot. He listened to Micah talk about science and Malik talk about superheroes. He started showing up in ways even Amara didn't expect. And little by little, her guarded heart softened. But the world wasn't done testing them. One afternoon, Logan invited them all to his mansion. It was huge, echoing, more space than any child needed. The boys ran from room to room in awe while Amara followed behind, clutching her purse. When they reached his private office, Logan pulled out a manila folder. "I need to show you something," he said. It was a report, a police file, a confession from his ex-wife's family. "They admitted it," Logan said softly. "They abandoned the twins after accusing me of being unfit. They wanted to start over without children tying her down. By the time I learned the truth, it was too late." Tears welled in Amara's eyes. "Those babies could have died." "I know," Logan whispered, voice breaking. "And you saved them. You saved my sons." She wiped her face, trying to hold herself together. Then Logan slid another paper toward her. "This isn't what you think," he said gently when she tensed. The paper wasn't a custody demand. It was a formal co-guardianship agreement, one that kept the boys with her permanently, no matter what. "I'm not trying to take them from you," Logan said. "I want to be in their lives, but I'll never replace you. You are their mother. In every way that matters." Her breath caught. No one had ever honored her motherhood so clearly, so beautifully. "And one more thing," he added quietly. "I reinstated your job." She shook her head. "I don't want charity." "It's not charity," Logan replied. "I reviewed your entire employment record. You ran half the operations better than people who earned triple your salary. You deserved promotions years ago." He handed her a new contract, higher pay, flexible schedule, full benefits. "And," he continued, "you'd report directly to me, because I trust you." Her hands trembled as she held the papers. "Logan, why are you doing all this?" He hesitated, then said something she did not expect. "Because you saved my family, and somewhere along the way, you became part of it too." The transition wasn't easy, but it was beautiful. Logan started joining them for dinner once a week. Sometimes the boys ate with him at his house. Other times, he sat at Amara's tiny dining table, elbows bumping hers, learning how to season collard greens properly or laughing when Malik beat him in Uno again. The boys started calling him Dad without hesitation. And one night, after the twins had fallen asleep on the couch, Logan and Amara stood outside under the porch light. "You did a good job with them," he said softly. "They're smart, kind, strong." Amara smiled. "They're miracles. Both of them." "You're the miracle," he said. She looked away, flustered. "Logan," he gently lifted her chin. "I'm not rushing anything. I just want you to know I'm grateful. For you. For them. For this second chance. Her heart fluttered. Slowly, beautifully, what began as conflict grew into companionship. Respect. Healing. A family rebuilt, not by blood but by love and choice. Months later, during the twins' 9th birthday celebration at a community park, Logan stood up and tapped his glass. "I want to make a toast," he said. The crowd quieted. Amara looked up, confused. He turned toward her, eyes warm. "Amara Johnson," he said, "you saved my sons. You saved me, and you showed me what a real family looks like." Then he took her hand. "I don't just want to co-parent with you. I want to build a life with you, a home with you, if you'll have me." Gasps rippled through the guests. Micah and Malik squealed with excitement, and Amara, stunned, emotional, overflowing with love, placed her hand over his. "Yes," she whispered, "I'll have you." The boys ran into their arms, hugging them both tightly as the sun dipped behind them. A broken billionaire, a fired single mother, two boys who brought them together, a family finally whole. Sometimes life takes what we hold dear only to return it in a way more beautiful than we imagined. And sometimes healing begins not in wealth or power, but in the quiet love of a Black mother who refuses to let life break her. Family is not just built by blood. It's built by choice, compassion, and the courage to love again. Dear viewer, thank you for watching. If you'd like to hear more powerful stories, you're welcome to subscribe.